SI? Everybody listen up. So there have been some questions about what exactly is included in the homework, so let me go ahead and go over it very specifically. Okay. So in the workbook, you're responsible for everything from page 11, which is the start of the greetings exercises, from 11 all the way through page 19, okay, in the workbook. Also in the workbook, everything from page 117 through 123 is also part of the workbook requirement, okay? You're not responsible for anything that's labeled lesson 2 until we start lesson 2. Make sense? But all of that stuff is labeled lesson 1, and you can tell because there's a great big number 1 at the top of the page, except for the 2 pages that are about eyesight. Okay? In the textbook, you're responsible for a bunch of activities as well. You're going to be writing out answers, even to the ones that say read the following. You're going to be writing out answers to all the exercises in the Renshu section. So that starts from Roman numeral 1, parts A, B, and C on page 48, and it goes through all of the Q&A, write the question, write the answer, write the question, write the answer. If it's the same question every single time, you can write the question once and then all the answers. But if the question varies, then I want you to write out each question and each answer. Okay? All the way through to the role play sample dialogues that you're going to create on page 56. So pages 48 to 56. So that includes literally write out little mini dialogues. They don't have to be super long, but little samples of Jamie says blah blah blah, and Sierra answers blah blah blah. And you can work on it with a partner. You don't have to do all of this completely by yourself, but you need to. Each of you have it written out in your own notebook in your own handwriting. Okay, and then in the reading and writing section of the textbook, you're responsible for pages 290 through 293. And once again, where it says writing practice, you received a letter from a Japanese friend, read it and write a letter introducing yourself. You can use the same basic format as the sample in the book and just write like a return postcard where you're answering their questions and giving your information similar to the way they gave you their information. So, it says, Hajimemashite, Maekawa Michiko desu. So you could return with, Hajimemashite, Ken desu. Or, Hajimemashite, Jarrett desu. Okay? And since you guys don't know how to do your names in katakana yet, I would assume that you will write it in the best approximation you can manage in hiragana, and maybe put your name in English in parentheses because you might have no idea how to spell your name in hiragana. So just do your best guess. Okay. Some names are going to be easier than others. Ken is super easy. Julianne, not so bad. Jarrett, a little harder. So just do your best guess. Don't get set in stone about it, because when we get to katakana, I'm going to be helping you guys figure out how to do your names in Japanese so that they get pronounced as close to your actual name as it's going to be possible to do. Okay? So whatever you figure out, just know that it's a temporary fix until we learn how to do better. Okay? But I do want you to do all of those activities. Now, some of them, they're asking you, circle this, circle that in the textbook. If you are writing in your textbook anyway, feel free to write on this page, bookmark it with like a little sticky note or something, and I will grade it from here, okay? Same thing goes with any of the other pages. In the textbook, the workbook, any place where you're not doing it on a separate paper, please bookmark the first page and the last page of that segment so that I can easily flip to the right pages and go through it quickly, not be searching high and low, how much of it did they do in here. So for example, in the Renshu section, it may be that you have big handwriting and so writing in the answers and all of this stuff just wasn't practical. If that's the case, you can do it all in your notebook. And if you're doing it in, say, a spiral bound notebook and you don't want to rip those pages out, again, bookmark the first page and the last page with little sticky notes so it's easy for me to find the relevant pages. If you've got homework and note-taking in class intermixed, please make it really clear and obvious which is which for me so that I'm not taking twice as long to check your paper because I'm trying to figure out what the heck is this? Is this notes or is this homework? Okay, so please, you know, if you can, I'd rather it was separated so that I just know that I'm only looking at homework. But if you've already intermixed it, it's too late to fix that. Do highlighter around all the homework or something so it's easy for me to tell what's what. Okay, and please, anytime it's in the text, in the workbook, just bookmark for me with some kind of easy to find tabs or something. That just makes it so much easier. And if it's in your notebook and you want to just dog ear the first and last page or something, that's okay too. Okay, but I want everything bookmarked easily enough that I can find it. Also, labeled with your name. It's really important that I know whose workbook, whose textbook, and whose notebook I'm looking at. If you are handing them all in at once, hopefully, because that's the point, right, you can put them all together. Okay, you don't have to separate it into categories. Some people are handing it all in the notebook and not handing in books at all. Some people are writing in one book but not the other. Some people are writing in everything and not even turning in a notebook because they've got teeny tiny handwriting and they're squeezing it all in, you know. So it's going to be different for everybody. So all of your stuff together in a stack when you come into class on Thursday. Okay? That's what I'm going to be asking for. And like I said, bookmarked, labeled. The best way to label your books is either, if you're writing on your books and you're happy to write on the outside in Sharpie, works great. Or on the inside front cover, works great. Okay? I don't want to have to search a lot of different places for names and wonder, well, did he write it this way? Did he write it there? Did he write it that other place? You know, one or two options is plenty, I think. So either the very front or the inner front cover would be my preference. And then for the notebook also, prominently at the top of the first page of the notebook or on the outside cover of the notebook so that I can find it from the start. You know, if you've got it bookmarked and you've got like the spiral bound notebook turned open to the first page you want me to look at, just have your name on the top of that first page, then I'll find it easily. Nice and big, please, so I can tell that, you know, that's where I'm supposed to look. Just make it easy for me, okay? If I'm having to search around too much, it takes me twice as long to get the homework checked. Okay? So, and what I'm doing is very simple, really. I've got a roster here that I made up that just has all the names in the class and a column labeled Lesson 1 for homework. And I'm just going to be totaling, okay, in the workbook they were supposed to be, I don't know, 16 pages or whatever the number is. And I just count through, okay, he did all of page 1, all of page 2, all of page 3. You know, I count up how many pages were done out of the pages required. And then in the textbook also, I go through and I look, okay, they did 1A, 1B, 1C, 2A, 2B, 2C, 3A, 3B, 3C, whatever the sections were, and it's just 1 point per segment. Okay, and so if it ended up being a grand total of like 42 points possible, and somebody did every last exercise, they should get a 42 out of 42, right? If you missed one somehow, maybe you get a 41 out of 42. Hopefully nobody misses more than a couple, because you want to get as close to 100% as you can. This is the easiest grade you're ever going to get in my class, is the homework grade, right? If you just do it all, you get 100% for it, okay? I'm not checking every last question to see, well, did he answer this correctly? Is his grammar perfect? Is his handwriting gorgeous? I'm not checking that. I'm looking for that stuff on the test, okay? But for the homework, you know, you had the opportunity to check a lot of your own work by listening back to the answers on the CDs to see if you got it right or not, or listening back to the recordings of the classes to see if what you wrote down is the same as what we said it was in class, right? So a large portion of your homework you were able to self-check. So when I'm checking it for grade, I'm just checking to make sure you really put the effort in. Okay, this is really an effort grade, not a correctness grade. Okay, so I want to get moving really fast through our sort of intro preview stuff so that we can get into as much of the grammar as possible today. So we're going to go ahead and do a very quick review of hiragana and vocab.
Do you want the sheet?
Yes, thanks. Did anyone else not get signed up yet? Okay, everybody got it? Okay. Okay, so we're just missing Catherine, right? Okay. Question?
I wanted to ask before we really get started, if we're doing numbers that are between 110 and 120, do we say hyaku ichi-ichu, or do we say hyakuju?
Hyakuju. Good question, yes. So if it's 110, hyakuju. If it's 111, hyakujuichi. Yeah. Yeah, that's a very good question. So the teens are kind of the tricky ones because you just say the ju and the next number. You don't have to say an ichi and then a ju and then the other number. Okay. Okay, I'm glad you asked that. That's a good question and a good thing to point out for anybody who hadn't already noticed.
But all the hundred stuff just works pretty much like you just say hyaku in front of it and then that.
Yeah. So yeah, 123 is hyaku nijusan.
Okay.
Yeah, and
that's
then
the same thing with my, like if you wanted to do like 200, like
yeah, ni hyaku works for 200. There are some pronunciation shifts that happen, like sanbyaku for 300. But lesson 2, they actually get into those higher numbers. Hundreds, thousands, and 10,000s get introduced in lesson 2. And then the kanji for how to write those gets introduced in lesson 3, which saves you a whole lot of paper space. So, okay, so let's go ahead and do real quick. We're doing speed hiragana today. Okay? So, a, I, u, e, o, ka, ki, ku, ke, ko, ga, gi, gu, ge, go, sa, shi, su, se, so, za, ji, zu, ze, zo, ta, chi, tsu, te, to, da, ji, zu, de, do, na, ni, nu, ne, no, ha, hi, hu, he, ho, ba, bi, bu, be, bo, pa, pi, pu, pe, po, ma, mi, mu, me, mo, ya, yu, yo, la, di, lu, de, do, wa, ho, o, Okay. Any questions about hiragana? Okay. Is it okay if we skip the combinations? Does everybody feel like they know the concept? Okay, so I'll end this show and we're going to look into Daika. And again, we're going to just kind of whiz through these and do just the basic vocabulary. So the aisatsu, ohayo. Okay. Ohayo gozaimasu.
おはようございます。
Konnichiwa.
こんにちは。
Konbanwa.
こんばんは。
Sayonara.
さようなら。
Oyasumi.
おやすみ。
Oyasumi nasai.
おやすみなさい。
Arigatou.
ありがと
Arigatou gozaimasu.
う。ありがとうございます。
Sumimasen.
すみません。
いいえ。
いいえ。
行ってきます。
行ってきます。
行ってらっしゃい。
いってらっしゃい。
ただいま。
ただいま。
おかえり。
おかえり。
おかえりなさい。
おかえりなさ
いただきます。
い。いただきます。
ごちそうさま。
ごちそうさま。
ごちそうさまでした。
ごちそうさまでした。
はじめまして。
はじめまして。
よろしくお願いします。
よろしくお願いします。
表現の音、練習、大化、会話、単語。Let's do 単語。
あの、
今、
今、
英語、
英語、
学生、
学生、
語、
語、
日本語、
日本語、
広報、
高校、
午後、
午後、
午前、
午前、
歳、
歳、
2歳、
2歳、
3、
3、
山田さん、
山田さん、
じ、
じ、
一時、
一時、
人、
人、
日本人、
日本人、
専攻、
専攻、
先生、
先生、
そうです。
そうです。
そうですか？
そうですか？
大学、
大学、
大学、大学生、
大学生、
電話、
電話、
友達、
友達、
名前、
名前、
何、
何、
何、日本、
日本、
年生、
年生、
1年生、
1年生、
はい、
はい、
半、
半、
2時半、
2時半、
番号、
番号、
留学生、
留学生、
私。
私。
Okay, and instead of going through the suji like that, let's just count to 10 and then count to 100 by tens. So, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Okay, notice that when people are counting 1 through 10, shi and shichi are used a lot, but tens, different story, right? So, 10, 20, 30, 40, 50, 60, 70, 80, 90, 100. Okay? Any questions about those guys?
About the, you said on the test we're supposed to do like a hiragana chart and you want it
Yeah.
in order.
Yeah.
For like the things with the marks.
You don't have to include those. Those are going to be an extra credit point. So you can do just this chart. You can do it this style, or you can do it the horizontal style, Japanese style. A, I, U, E, O, Ka, Ki, Ku, Ke, Ko, Sa, Shi, Su, Se, So, like that. You can do it either way. If you want to include the diacritical marks, you can integrate them if you want to, or you can do them as a separate piece like this chart does. Okay, it's up to you. What I care about is that you know them in order and how to write them all, because when you're using paper dictionaries, you need it. And it's also just a convenience thing. I mean, it's good to know how to alphabetize in any language that you're learning, right? You know, Japanese people like alphabetical order for themselves just as often as we do for English stuff. So might as well learn the chart in order. It's useful, comes in handy, and it's a good way of memorizing it and making sure you got them all, right? If you know the order, if you can say akasata naha maya rawa n, then you've got that whole axis, you know you're not forgetting any, you're not leaving anything out, right? Right.
Are we going to be learning how to use like a kanji dictionary?
If that's something you guys want to cover, we can talk about that a little bit later when we start getting into kanji. There's actually more than one style of kanji dictionary in the world these days, and I've got one type actually on reserve in the language lab that you can borrow while you're there if you want to. But I can go over sort of the fundamentals of how kanji dictionaries get used in a later class when we talk about kanji themselves, okay? Okay, so for tonight, I really want us to get through as many of our renshu as possible to make sure everybody understands the grammar structures involved. Okay, so I'm going to turn all of this stuff off because I want us to focus on okay. So we left off having done statements about this chart, right? We're looking at Gojuni Peiji, Goju-san Peiji. We talked about all the facts in the chart, right? The next segment, starting with the example at the bottom of the page, is asking and answering questions about that same information. Okay? So we're going to let Sierra-san start by reading the first question, example 1 question, and Jamie-san is going to read the answer to that first example.
Which page is that again?
Gojuni page desu. If you're having a hard time finding it, maybe you can look on with somebody.
I
If
can
you don't have
probably
it.
get it on Canvas.
Do that, right?
Okay, that works if that's okay with you guys.
Yeah.
Okay, and you've got a digital copy, okay. Okay, so, どうぞ.
メアリーさんはアメリカ人ですか?
Okay, notice the pronunciation, アメリカ人ですか? There's no on America.
Sorry.
Yeah, so that's just a common habit that a lot of Americans have, but I want you to notice that it's country name plus gene, not nationality word plus gene. It's an important distinction, right? So, America人ですか?
そうです.
Hi. Okay, and notice that they're using so desu, but there's more than one way to answer this question, right? You could say,
Right.
Hi, so desu. That works too, right? Anyone have another alternative that they wanted to bring up? Because there's at least one more way you could answer this.
Would good work? Like E?
No, that doesn't work.
Okay.
Hi.
Isn't it sort of like using what is a complete sentence in English? You would just restate yes, I
You can
am
basically
American.
restate the question minus the ka. So you can do, Hi, Mary-san wa America jin desu. That's the equivalent of, instead of saying yes, she is, that's saying yes, Mary is American, right? We can say it both ways in English. Japanese can say it both ways also. There's a third alternative that Japanese has, which is Hai America jin desu. Okay, so if you look at the structure of the question, Mary-san wa America jin desu ka? You can answer with Hai so desu or so desu. Hai and are pretty much interchangeable here. Okay, you can also repeat back the entire statement minus the ka. So put hai or in the front, and then Mary-san wa America jin desu. Or you can do something that English doesn't usually allow for, which is to take the subject part out because it's already understood that's who we're talking about, right? We've already established, Sierra asked, is Mary American? So we've already established the sentence is about Mary. So you can answer with, yes, she's American. Except that in Japanese, it ends up being, yes, American is. No she in there, right? We don't need it. So, はい、アメリカ人です also works. Okay, so there's all those different possibilities for the answer to a yes/no question. Okay, if the answer is yes, right? Now, Jamie-san is going to ask this example 2 question, and Ken's going to answer, demonstrating how to do a negative answer. どうぞ。
メリーさんは3年生ですか？
いえ、2年生です。
はい。So here, they're not giving you a lot of other options because they're not teaching how to do a negative conjugation of des yet. That comes in chapter 2. So, メアリーさんは3年生ですか？いいえ、no. And then you can say メアリーさんは, but you don't have to. The vital part of the sentence, besides the いいえ, is the corrected information. So you take out the san from 3年生 because that's not the right number, and you replace it with the correct number, which happens to be ni, right? So you just do a replacement, do a quick swap, and say いいえ、2年生です. Does everyone see the pattern? Does everyone see how that works? It's very formulaic. You know, pull out this number, stick in a different number in its place, leave everything else the same, right? Or pull out that number, replace it with the other number, and drop the subject because it's redundant. So you can either leave everything else the same, or you can just keep the parts of the sentence that are new information and leave out the subject, which is repeat information. Make sense? Okay, let's do some examples. じゃあ、ケンさんと、ブランドンさんですね。1番お願いします。
Do you want me to ask him or?
Yes, you're going to ask him
Okay.
and he's going to answer.
Okay. Brandon-san.
No, you're going to ask the question that's in the textbook.
I
Yeah.
thought you meant.
Yeah, no, you're asking about Mary
sorry.
still.
Okay.
We're still asking questions about the chart. What you were
That's-
trying to do comes later.
Okay.
We'll get there.
Okay. Yari-san wa.
Mary-san.
Yeah. Is it?
That's a me.
Me-ari.
はい、Mary.
That's what it was trying. Okay.
Yeah.
Meari-san wa. Arizona.
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 はい。
大学 or excuse me, I'm supposed to say ano instead of大学の学生
Finish the question.
ですか
Hi, there you go.
Question. The question.
So, yeah, they're giving you the subject and the object, but they want you to fill in the particle wa and the desu ka on the end. どうぞ。
そうです。
はい、そうですね。アリゾナ大学の学生です。いいですか？はい、じゃあ、ブランドンさんとポールさん、2番お願いします。
メリーさんは1年生ですか？いいえ、2年生です。
はい、そうですね。2年生ですね。はい、じゃあ3番、ポールさんとオーブリーさんですね。Audrey.
Yes.
Okay. I don't know why I keep thinking Aubrey.
We were talking about that in language lab. For some reason, with like my generation, there's more Aubreys than Audreys.
That could be it. Okay. So, どうぞ。
たけしさんは日本人ですか？
はい、日本人です。
はい、そうですね。じゃあ、オードリーさんと、コーリーさんですね。はい。どうぞ。4番ですね。
たけしさんは日本大学の学生ですか？
そうです。
本当ですか？ The name of his college is Japan University?
いえ、桜大学
No?
の大学学生の
の
学生
の学生
です。
です。はい。桜大学の学生です。Okay, does everybody see what happened there? 日本大学の学生ですか？いいえ。 Sakura Daigaku no gakusei desu. So notice that that whole second piece after the slash needs to work as a unit, even though part of it is a repetition, but it's a grammatical unit. So you just take out the one piece of information that was wrong and replace it with the piece that's correct. いいですか? じゃあ、コーリさんとベサニーさんですね。
Takahashi san wa
たけしさん、
oh, Takeshi san wa 19歳
19
19歳ですか?
いいえ、たけしさんは22です。
22
歳です。
はい、22歳ですね。たけしさんは22歳です。Yeah, be careful of these names because Takeshi and Takashi and Takahashi are all real names. Takahashi is actually a surname. Takashi and Takeshi are two different boys' names. Okay. じゃあ、ベサニーさんとトマスさんですね。
スーさんはスウェーデン人ですか？
スウェーデン人。
スウェ
Yeah, look at the look at the hiragana. はい。
スウェーデン人
スウェーデン
ですか？
スウェーデン人ですか?
Lee?
いいえ。
Gino?
Look at the hiragana, not the romaji.
Yeah.
いいえ。
Susan,
Susan
Susan
は、
wa Kankoku?
はい、韓国、
Kankoku?
はい、韓国、
Des.
韓国人
Jin?
です。
Yes.
韓国 is the name of the country. Korea, she is not all of Korea.
Oh, okay.
韓国人です
Yes.
She is a Korean person, right?
Yes.
She's not that big. She's not even that chubby. 韓国人ですね。はい、じゃあトマスさんと、just lost her name. ちょっと待って。I'm gonna remember it, really I am. シャンテルさん。はい。
Susan, no wa,
の先方
oh, Senko.
は、
K-E-Z-U?
はい、経済。
K-E-Z-U? Desu ka?
いいですね。スーさんの専攻は経済ですか？
いいえ、コンピューターです。
はい、そうですね。コンピューターですね。じゃあ、シャンタルさんとジュリアンさん。
ロバートさんの専攻はビジネスですか？はい、そうです。
はい、そうですね。じゃあ、9番、ジュリアンさんとジャレットさんどうぞ。
ロバートさんは4年生ですね。ですか
4年生ですか？
はい、そうです。
はい、そうです。はい、じゃあ、ジャレットさんとディランさんですね。
ロバートさんは20歳ですか
21歳。
21歳ですか
So that's,
いいえ、21歳. Can anyone figure out what that number is? It's a little different spelling than what you're used to.
21?
はい。21歳. Okay. What's happening is writing kanji. 20. That part is what you're used to. The ichi. When it gets combined with an S sound as a suffix onto the number, the ichi the chi on ichi disappears and changes into a small 2. Okay? Ichi and hachi both do this in front of S sounds. Okay? So, niju ichi sai. If you think about it, niju ichi sai is a little bit awkward to say, right? If you're talking fast, it just sort of naturally morphs into niju isai. Okay? Niju ichi sai sounds like you're going to bite your tongue almost, right? Feels awkward. Niju isai is more natural feeling. So that's what Japanese does. Okay? So you're going to correct him. Niju isai desu ka? But he's not 21. How old is he actually? Sai desu. Right. So your answer would be iie, 22 sai desu. いいですか? わかりますか? Everybody got it? Okay, so ロバートさんは21歳ですか? いいえ、22歳です。じゃあ、デュナンさんとシエラさん、あと11番お願いします。
山下先生は日本人ですか?
はい、そうです。
はい、いいですね。そうですね。じゃあ12番、シエラさんとジェイミーさん。どうぞ。
山下先生はハワイ大学の先生ですか?
いえ、山下先生は桜大学の先生です。
はい、そうですね。質問がありますか? Any questions? Okay, so does everybody pretty much get how the yes-no questions are formed and how to form the answers? Did everybody get it? Okay, じゃあ、お父さんは会社員です。We're going on to some more statements about this chart on the following page now. Okay, so we're going to start with an example sentence that's on page 53, and then we're going to go on to 54ページ。53ページと54ページ。Okay, so I'm going to let Jamie-san read the first little example sentence where it says お父さん and then the arrow.
Should I read that part too?
You can just read the sentence, that's fine.
Okay. お父さんは会社員です。
はい、会社員です。Yeah, that's kind of a weird spelling, isn't it? Especially if you're looking at the romaji. If you look at the hiragana, it's actually easier to read some of these weird ones that have a lot of vowels because you can see more clearly what's what. So, お父さんは会社員です。Which means, if you look at the chart, it actually helps you out.
Office worker, right? Was she an office worker? Or-
Yeah, the father,
Oh,
meaning Mary-san's host father, works for a company or is a company employee. Kaisha literally means company. In means employee or worker. So kaisha-in is an employee of a company, like an office worker type job. You know, he's a guy that sits at a desk and does paperwork, that kind of thing.
did you say in means
In
employee?
means employee or worker, yes. So kaisha means company, kaisha-in means company worker or company employee. And it generally implies white-collar office work as opposed to, you know, construction worker or something, which he might work for a company, but that doesn't make him kaisha-in necessarily. Kaisha means company, and kaisha-in generally means like a white-collar worker, like an office worker. Okay, so お父さんは会社員ですね。Okay, and now Ken-san, we're going to get you to read the second example, which is the age sentence.
Okay. お父さんは48歳です。
はい、48歳です。So remember what we said about 21歳 was 21 years of age, right? So 48歳 is
Oh,
What do you think?
Yon, 40, what's that? Hachi,
Yeah.
48.
48, yeah, 48. 48. Does everyone see how that conversion works? And by the way, if you're ever getting confused on any of the number conversions that do happen in Japanese, you've actually got a cool little chart way in the back of your book. 380ページと381ページ way in the back of the textbook. It's a whole chart that shows you the numbers 1 through 10, and it categorizes all the possible suffixes that could follow the numbers based on whether or not they require any alterations in the pronunciation of the numbers themselves. So the ones that don't have any altered pronunciations are in that first column under the regular numbers, and then all the other columns show you, oh, well, 4 changes to this, 7 changes to that, whatever changes are made, and it gives you the list of the suffixes that require that shift at the bottom. You see it? It's a very useful chart. It'll come in handy zillions of times between now and the end of this textbook. Okay? And it lists all of the possible suffixes that this textbook teaches. So if it's not taught in this textbook, it's probably not in this chart. But that's a good number still. And by the time you get to the end of all of those, you'll probably have a pretty good feel for which numbers need to shift and when and for what kinds of pronunciations. Hi.
So, for example, if ichi following a K sound as well, it's ikai?
Yeah, so ichikai is not correct, it's ikai. Yeah, that's exactly what that's doing. Okay?
So what about the one that has an arrow going K to G?
That means that it can change from a K to a G sound. So, like, ikai is the first floor, but sangai is the third floor. So the K sound in kai actually shifts to a G for the 3 in that case. And for the question, how many? So like, what floor are you going to would be nangai desu ka? No.
About 6.
6 kai. If you're talking about that column. And hakkai, like that. So it goes back to the K sound. Does that help? Does that help you understand how to use that chart? So that's a really useful chart, and it'll keep coming up over and over and over again as we go through different kinds of things that can follow numbers. Okay? So Ken just read our second example for us. お父さんは48歳です. Okay? Now we're going to go through the rest of the chart, and we're going to make statements about the occupations and the ages of these other few people in the host family, and then we'll do the Q&A about them after that. So Brandon-san is going to give us the occupation of Oka-san.
お母さんは主婦です。
はい、そうですね。お母さんは主婦です。Okay. Any questions about that one? Typical for a lot of older Japanese women who are married with kids. じゃあ、ポールさん、the age for お母さん。
お母さんは45歳です。
はい、45歳です。And notice that's one of the numbers that doesn't have a pronunciation shift. 45歳です。There's no need to change that pronunciation for any reason. Okay. Audrey さん。
お兄さんは大学院生です。
はい、大学院生ですね。コーディさん。
お兄さんは23歳です。
はい、そうです。ベサニーさん。妹。
妹は高校生です。
はい。そしてトーマスさん。
妹は16。
はい。
desu ka?
16
Sa?
歳はい16歳ですはい that's very important, otherwise you're saying that she's the number 16 not 16 years old はい OK 妹は16歳ですいいですかじゃあシャンシャンさん we're going to let you read the first question
お父さんは会社員ですか？
はい会社員
ですか？
はい so ジュリアンさん
はいそうです
はいそうです OK ジュリアンさん2番お願いします
お父さんは何歳ですか？
さん
お父さん
We need to talk about what kind of question this is.
What age is he?
Yeah, that's what
Yeah.
I'm guessing it is.
Okay,
'Cause it's
yeah.
nouns.
Okay, so let's break it down. Okay, so nansai desu ka? First of all, let's talk about what is the word nan. What's that mean? What? So, and sai is age. So, nansai desu ka is asking
How old are you?
what age is someone, right? And the someone is going to be whatever name or person is in front of the wa over here. So in this case, it's otosan wa, right? Otosan wa nansai desu ka? So contrast that with the sentences that we've been asking. Kaishain desu ka? Otosan wa kaishain desu ka? Is he a company employee, or is he on something, right? So, kaishain desu ka? What kind of question would you call this one? Kaishain desu ka? Yes, it's a yes/no question. Okay, right? It's asking, is he an employee, a company employee? And the answer is either going to have a hai or an iie in the answer, right? Hai, so desu. Hai, kaishain desu. Or iie, something else desu, right? Okay, depending on who you're asking about. So these yes/no questions are always going to have either hai, or iie, and then the rest of the answer, desu, right? Those are always going to follow that sort of a format, right? What's different up here? Otosan wa nansai desu ka?
It's an open answer.
It's an open-ended question, right? None counts as a what, right? In English, we sometimes refer to them as WH questions or question word questions. Who, what, when, where, why, and how, right? So this is a what question, what age in this case, right? So what's the format going to be for an answer to this?
Without yes or no.
Right, first of all, without yes or no, and what else? What else do we have to do here?
Yes.
Otosan wa nansai desu ka? Des is
Say
important,
is.
yes, we definitely do need des, but what else do we need?
His age.
A numbers.
Yeah, this stuff gets pulled down exactly as is, right? And this, you have to fill in whatever information we're missing, right? Does that make sense?
I thought it was a statement saying he's 4 years old.
Oh, oh,
Not-
not yon,
Yeah.
yeah. Okay,
That's-
so yeah,
that
they're
was-
similar sounding, so you got confused. But otosan wa nansai desu ka? So you're gonna put the number in here, and then you're gonna still pull down the sai desu. Okay, just like in this one, はい or いいえ, you either pull down the 会社員です or you replaced 会社員 with something else if it was a negative, right? But in either case, you're either repeating the correct information if it was a yes/no question, where the answer is yes, or you're replacing the wrong information with the corrected information if you're answering no, right? If it's a who, what, when, where, why, or how question, you're replacing the question word with the information requested. So the rest of the sentence, you can keep the same format, right? You can even pull this part down if you want to, although it's optional, right? But the most essential part here is going to be you've got to replace the question with the information, in this case the number 48, right? And then you have to keep the suffix that went with the non-sai, right? The sai part is still important and the des is still important. Make sense? Okay, so non-sai desu ka? And you're going to tell us.
弟さんは78歳ですか?
70? He's not
Yo-
70.
sorry, 48歳です。
です。はい、48歳です。はい、よくできました。Okay, so, yeah, non and nana sound disconcertingly alike. So, yeah, but he's not 78. He's
That number
48.
got stuck in my head because
はい。Yeah, so 何歳ですか ?48 歳です。Okay, いいですかじゃあ、ジャレットさんとヨナンさん、3番お願いします。
お母さんは先生ですか?
Are they asking what job she is?
Yeah, it's asking, is she a teacher? 先生ですか
She's not, so.
Right.
Okan-san wa shufu desu ka?
Are you asking or are you telling?
Oh, telling.
So the question was, is she a teacher? So you're going to answer with a yes or a no, right?
Yeah.
Since it is spot, so the yes or no would be yes or no.
Can you say that again? Sorry.
いいえ。
Ie. Ie shufu desu ka?
Yes. Don't put a ka on there,
Okay,
it's not a
yes.
question, right?
So
いい
ie
え。主婦。
shufu desu.
はい。いいえ、主婦です。いいですね。わかりますか Do you understand
Yeah.
the structure?
Yeah, I just
Okay.
take words out and then.
Uh-huh. Okay. じゃあ、デルンさんとシエラさんと4番お願いします。
Oka-san wa nansai desu ka?
はい。
お母さんは4号
はい、45。
歳です。
はい、45歳ですね。はい、じゃあ、シエラさんどうぞ。
お兄さんは会社員ですか？
いえ、お兄さんは大学院生です。
はい、大学院生です。大学院生です。じゃあ、どうぞ、6番。
お兄さんは
お兄さん。
何歳ですか？
23歳です。
はい、そうですね。Be careful on お兄さん. If you put too much emphasis on the O and shorten the ni too much, it starts to sound like you're saying Mr. Demon instead of older brother.
What's the difference?
Oni. Without
No, I mean,
the
like, what's the difference?
I know, you've got an older brother.
You know him.
Yeah, I know him. He's not that bad, come on.
Don't live with him.
Okay, お兄さん。
7、
はい、どうぞ。
妹は大学生ですか？
いえ、妹は高校生です。
はい、高校生です。Again, you want to make sure you're giving the long vowels enough length because 高校 means here. 高校 means high school. Right. 高校 means here, like this location.
K-sound.
高校. Yeah.
And go-go is high school.
Yeah. Go is PM.
Or
Yeah.
draw the
Yeah. And 高校 is a high school.
Gotcha.
Okay.
What's the
Hi.
difference between like saying like ano and like pointing to something and go ano?
The length of that final vowel. Usually when someone's saying they draw it out. Even though it's not typed that way,
Yes,
it's
like
usually
written it's
pronounced
different.
that
Like
way.
written it's the same then.
Yeah, written
It's
is
like all
the
by
same.
context.
Yeah, it's context. はい。じゃあ、OK、どうぞ。ブランドンさん。
妹は何歳ですか？
16歳です。
はい、16歳ですね。いいですか？ Okay, so now I want us to look at the next segment, 練習、まとめの練習。まとめ means like the consolidation of everything, putting it all together. So a lot of times the まとめの練習 will include activities that make you incorporate multiple grammar structures into the same activity. Okay, so we're going to go ahead and read some samples and then try to take a little bit about how to do these. So let's let Paul-san to Oji-san read the Q&A here.
お名前は？
メアリー・ハットです。
Hi. You want to just go ahead and go through a few more of them just so we can get through them quick? So, ご出身。
ご出身は？
アリゾナです。
はい。
お仕事は？
学生です。
何年生ですか？
2年生です。
何歳ですか？
19歳です。
専攻は何ですか？
日本語です。
Hi. So I just want to talk briefly about the structure. These ones that just end with a wa and a question mark, what they're doing basically is they're just leaving out the nan desu ka off the end of the sentence. Okay, so onamae wa onamae wa. The long form of that question would be onamae wa nan desu ka? And the breakdown here is the nan, of course, is
What?
what. The des is
Is.
okay. The ka is like a question mark, like a verbal question mark, right? So nan desu ka, what is whatever it is, right? Onamae, the o here and the go in go shushin and the o in oshigoto, all three of those are an honorific prefix. So you could translate it as like honorable. There are certain nouns that take an honorific prefix o, certain nouns that take go, some that don't normally take either one, but it's not the thing you're being polite to. Even though you're putting it on the front of a noun, it's the person you're speaking with that you're being polite to by using an honorific prefix like that. Hi.
So by putting the O in front, it becomes like somewhat formal, or is it?
Yes, it makes it more formal. It also makes it very clear that you're asking about the other person not making a statement about yourself. Because to use an honorific o on yourself sounds really conceited. Okay, but if you're talking to someone else, o namae wa, what is namae?
Name.
Name. So, o namae wa nan desu ka? What am I asking?
What is your honorable
What
name?
is your honorable name, right?
Hi.
Okay, and so this particle wa is doing its normal function of just being the subject marker, right? Okay, so if you leave this part out and just turn this into a question by virtue of context and your intonation, onamae wa, it's very clear to Japanese people that you're just asking, your honorable name is? And think about it, even in English, and your name is, we could use that, right? Okay, and it's very polite.
So this is an acceptable way of asking a question
Yes.
without being rude.
This is an acceptable, this particular structure for names specifically and for these other examples that they give are sort of commonly used. The rule that applies here is that when something is already very clear and obviously understood, like the nan desu ka ending to these sentences, you can leave it out, and it's even maybe a little bit more polite because it's so obvious that it's sort of redundant to bother saying it. Okay? Hi.
In longer sentences where the subject is stated like tomodachi, would it revert back to namae instead of o namae?
Yes, very good. So let's say you're introducing your friend or telling about your friend to somebody else, and you're telling them that your friend's name is Kenji, for example. Watashi no tomodachi no namae wa Kenji desu. Or you could sometimes leave out the watashi no, the my part. If it's clear that you're talking about your own friend, not the other person's friend, you could say tomodachi no namae wa Kenji desu. And if you wanted to find out what the other person's friend's name was, o tomodachi no o namae wa could work. O tomodachi is another place where that o prefix works to mean someone else's honorable friend. Like, so you just met somebody, and when they first came in, you noticed that they were with somebody, but that other person walked off while you were talking, and you want to find out, what about your friend over there? O tomodachi no o namae wa? Right. So o namae wa works as a very polite way to ask, what's your name? Okay, and notice that in her answers, she answers with just the ending part of the sentences, right? Me arigato desu. She didn't say watashi no namae wa me arigato desu. Why not?
It's a bit redundant.
Again, it's redundant. She's obviously answering the question about what her own name is, right? So you don't really need a subject in these sentences. Okay? Hi.
When we're dealing with honorific,
Hi.
is there a point at which we would be kind of praising someone too much by throwing like honorific?
It's very situational, and it takes a long time to kind of get the hang of it. But yeah, if the person is a lot younger than you, you don't throw around as many honorifics. If the person is the same age as you and you're kind of the same status and the situation is more casual, you might start out with honorifics, but they break down sooner. If the person is a lot older than you are, there's no such thing as being too polite. Hi.
Is there like a negative honorific for someone who brought shame to their family or murdered a bunch of people?
I don't know. It's never come up in real life for me, so.
Okay.
Sorry, I can't answer that one right now.
Okay.
That might be a good one to ask a native speaker if Hitoshi or Ippei are available to answer questions still. I don't know if they're around as much as they used to be. They've been very busy with class lately.
Yeah, so this was a good time to say that escalated quickly.
So anyway, but those are the kinds of obscure questions that they don't seem to mind answering. So, yeah, it's good to ask it in the abstract like you did. You know, not like pointing fingers at anybody.
Well, is there ever a time where you wouldn't give someone honor? Like,
well, if you're close friends with somebody,
aside
in
from
Japan,
that.
that's the main one that I know of.
Okay.
Yeah.
I guess you could just straight out insult them and call them like bad names, but like. stuff
Yeah,
like that.
I mean, even when somebody is not liked, I think in Japanese society, people usually do not go out of their way to be rude or insulting toward them. I remember even like some of my college friends, when they felt like being sarcastic and silly with one another, they would be over the top polite as a way of being silly.
Okay.
Because it was like, you know, this is ridiculous. You're my best friend and I'm using overly polite language to you just to be funny. It can also be the opposite though. It can come across as giving them the cold shoulder if you do it with a serious tone. You know, if you normally speak in casual style with this person, but you're mad at them for some reason, and you start being very formal and proper with them, and you refuse to break out of it even when they try to like joke with you or something, that is a major brush off.
What about like sarcasm?
That's kind of where sarcasm comes in, where you being overly polite to somebody that you don't like, but depending on the circumstances, it might not always convey. The other person might take it literally, that you're being polite to them.
I thought you were saying like if, say, parents disappointed in their kid, they'll use their full name or.
Yeah, well,
I thought those were referring to.
no, that's something else again, but
If,
yeah.
like, let's say someone did something very foolish, would you call them Chan to imply that they were like ignorant or just ill?
I don't really know.
Okay.
For now, I'd say steer clear of
Okay.
any kind of negative stuff, just be polite.
Okay.
Because honestly, some of that stuff comes across a lot stronger in Japanese society than it does in this one. So that's one reason why this textbook starts with neutral, polite language. All these des and deska endings and the mas, masen endings that we're going to learn in lesson 3 and 4, all of this is the kind of polite language that is safe to use with total strangers when you're lost in the train station and you need some help.
Okay.
You know, you won't offend anybody if you say onamae wa to somebody you don't know yet. You know, little kids might think you're kind of funny because you're being so polite to them, but they won't think it's offensive. Adults will think it's polite and be appreciative that you're being polite. Okay? But for the OPI, for the oral proficiency test, these are samples of some of the kinds of stuff that are going to come up. It's going to be, you know, you're going to get a prompt card, your partner is going to get a prompt card. Some of the questions on your card might be the same as your partner's, some might be different, but you're going to ask and answer each other's questions in Japanese. Your prompt cards will be in English, so it might be something like, what's your name? And then you're going to have to turn it into onamae wa, and then the other person has to be able to understand that and answer tiimi desu. You know, and remember to not put san on your own name because again, that sounds like you're really full of yourself. Right.
Even though it's we're doing it in partners, do we each get our own specific grade?
Yes, yes, you each get graded. Yeah.
No.
No offense. No offense to anybody else, but yeah, no, what I have.
Mess up, but you don't. And
Yeah.
then
What I have in front of me while you're working is I'll have a reference sheet so I know what questions you're working from.
Okay.
But I'll also have a scoring sheet with 2 columns, one for the student sitting on this side of me and one for the student sitting on this side. and I will be scoring each of you on all the points about, pronunciation, grammar usage, vocabulary usage, comprehension of your partner, all of that stuff. Okay, so I highly recommend that you work with and practice with your partner. If you know who your partner is, practice with them if you can. If you don't know the person, maybe you can find them in the language lab. I can leave this out in case anybody wants to look over it on their way out the door. Also, just rehearse with whoever you can rehearse with. Even if it's not the person you are going to be testing with, you can still rehearse with whoever's available. And, rehearse with the level 2 and 3 people if you get the chance too. Yeah.
2 things. There's under the lesson 1 on Canvas, you have a really cool, I believe it's last year's OPI questions, if anyone wants to use those as a reference.
Yeah, it's there in Canvas on purpose so that you can practice ahead of time and prepare for things. Yeah.
If anyone wants to come, I can be here all day tomorrow if someone wants to practice, because talking to my nephew doesn't cut it. He's 2.
Yeah, although he'll probably pick up some Japanese from you if you work at it.
But seriously though, does anybody want to
I'll be there
I'll be
tomorrow
there.
for sure. It's me and you practice.
Hi.
How do you say that I don't have?
at the language lab tomorrow? Okay, I will be there as well.
I'll be there in between 12 and like 1.
I can be there if anybody wants to all day tomorrow. I will bring the programs.
It's just I have a class, but after that.
Corey's gonna be here, what'd you say, 12:31?
Yeah, about 12:31.
And we said 2:30 to 4?
Yeah, around,
Okay,
as soon as I
sorry.
finish my
I
class.
can just go after my class.
What's your class?
For the purposes of this,
I can literally show up at 8 AM and I'll stay till 6.
Out at like 1:30.
Okay, so yeah, so I guess
it's probably better.
that's the boundary.
I think I'll try to come around 4:35.
Okay, so I'll stick around. You have my number right here in that.
No, okay.
I'll be
Yeah,
here,
that'd be
I have 12 meetings tomorrow.
Be in the language lab. I'll be there like pretty much after 12.
No, but what I'm saying is, I could probably be
Yeah, that's
there
what I figured. Like, I looked at like all the on
for a short
That's one
period
reason why I
between
changed my
like
format.
1:30 and 2:30 before I have a meeting.
So that sounds like we
And then
might have
after
2 or 3 people there, so we can run through that real quick. You can show up real quick, we can run through the drills and I'll practice asking questions. Okay.
I'll try to be there.
I'll message you on the
I changed my format
Canvas.
because I felt like the skits were getting too far off topic. People who were feeling ambitious or more advanced would try to incorporate too much stuff from elsewhere outside of the chapter.
May I?
Hey,
I'm wait. I was gonna ask if I could check to see if I actually put the files on the flash drive. I think I moved them to another file on my desktop.
whoops, okay, you wanna check real quick?
Yes, please.
Yeah, okay, let me just put this
Is
here.
this a USB cord right here?
It may be, I'm gonna
Yes.